Hey everyone, and welcome back to Animal Notebook. I am so excited you're joining me today for a brand new explainer. We're going to be focusing on some of the most familiar, yet honestly surprisingly complex backyard acrobats out there. We are unpacking the Squirrel Snow Saga, Brave Little Explorer. Let's get right into it. I want you to just think about this for a second. How exactly does a tiny rodent, we're talking an animal that sometimes weighs just a few ounces, survive the brutal, freezing wilderness of winter? Right? They don't have heavy winter coats from a store, and they literally do not have central heating. Well, as you'll see today, they're armed with little more than a bushy tail, some super sharp claws, and an absolutely incredible memory. Okay, so meet our protagonist. This is our brave little explorer gearing up for the harsh winter months in Acorn Grove. Now, while it looks super picturesque, kind of like a cozy movie scene, for these animals, those dropping autumn leaves, that signals the start of a critical, high-stakes survival mission. Literally every single acorn counts when the snow starts falling. Section 1. Anatomy of an Acrobat. So to actually pull off this winter survival mission, they need a really specific physical toolkit. Those iconic bushy tails, yeah, they aren't just for show. The tail acts like a total multi-tool. It's a rudder to help them steer while they're jumping, a counterbalance for sprinting along super thin branches, and crucially for our snow saga here, it's basically a built-in blanket. They just wrap right around themselves for warmth. Oh, and they're also armed with these exceptionally sharp claws that basically act like climbing spikes to grip tree bark perfectly. But, they also possess these hidden superpowers that you might completely miss at first glance. First off, their front teeth, the incisors, they never stop growing, like ever. They have to constantly gnaw on nuts and bark just to keep them filed down. Secondly, they've got this excellent vision with a huge, super wide field of view, making it incredibly hard for predators to sneak up on them. And okay, my personal favorite feature, their ankles can rotate 180 degrees. No way, right? They can literally turn their back feet completely backward, which lets them hang from their toes and run down trees completely headfirst. It is just unmatched agility. Section 2. The Great Winter Forage. All right, so armed with that incredible acrobatic anatomy, our explorer shifts focus entirely to, well, their pantry. The absolutely crucial strategy here is a behavior called scatter hoarding. So instead of putting all their eggs, or, acorns in this case, in one basket, they bury their food in hundreds, sometimes thousands, of small, widespread caches. It's totally a risk management strategy. Basically, if another animal finds one stash, our explorer hasn't lost the whole shebang. But to actually make this work, they rely on a wildly powerful spatial memory to map out and relocate these hidden treasures months later, buried deep under the snow. So what exactly are they burying and eating out there? Well, it turns out they aren't just eating acorns. They are true omnivores. While they famously stash away nuts and seeds, they're also grabbing fruit, berries, fungi, tree buds, and yep, even insects. And actually, surprisingly, they'll occasionally even eat bird eggs or small animals to get the protein they need. It's a really diverse diet that just keeps their internal engines roaring during the absolute coldest parts of the year. Section 3. A Global Squirrel Family. Okay, so we know how our little explorer gets through the winter, but they are far from alone out there. I want you to just let this massive number sink in for a second. 36 million. That is how far back squirrel-like fossils date in the historical record. 36 million years. This isn't just some successful species. It's an incredibly ancient and resilient lineage that is perfectly adapted to survive across millions and millions of winters. And over those millions of years, this family, which is known scientifically as Squirrel, by the way, has branched out into over 200 recognized species across three main factions. First, we have the familiar tree squirrels, which are diurnal, meaning they're active during the day and they stay active year-round. Then we have ground squirrels, like chipmunks and marmots, which live in burrows. And many of these guys actually hibernate straight through the winter. And finally, the mysterious flying squirrels, which are primarily active at night. Let's do a quick rapid-fire rundown of just how impressive this family tree really is. Speed? Some ground squirrels can sprint up to 20 miles per hour. Aerial ability? Flying squirrels can glide over 150 feet between trees. That is literally half a football field. And here's a really fun one to remember for your next trivia night. They only have sweat glands in their paw pads. Yep, they literally have sweaty palms. Overall, they're just an incredibly successful family, spread globally across every single continent except for Antarctica and Australia. Section 4. Frequently Asked Questions.
Now, we can't end an Animal Notebook explainer without digging into the most curious things you all want to know. So let's jump right into our 4 frequently asked questions to wrap up today's deep dive. This is easily the most common question we get when talking about the squirrel family tree. FAQ 1. We hear the name flying squirrel, but do they actually fly? Well, the short answer is no. They don't truly fly. They don't have powered flight like a bird or a bat does. Instead, they are just incredible gliders. They have this special stretchy furry membrane spanning between their wrists and ankles, and it's called a patagium. When they leap, they spread their limbs. The patagium catches the air just like a parachute, and they glide so gracefully right through the night canopy.
Let's move on to our second FAQ. Regarding that totally unique dental anatomy we touched on a bit earlier, do their teeth ever actually stop growing? The answer to that is a resounding never. Their incisors grow continuously for their entire lives. Basically, if they were to stop gnawing on nuts, wood, and bark, their teeth would actually grow so long that they wouldn't even be able to eat. It's this built-in survival mechanism that ensures they always have sharp tools to crack open the absolute toughest winter shells. Okay, FAQ number 3 is all about the lifespan of our brave explorers. Given the harsh winters and, all the predators out there, how long do they actually live? Well, it actually varies a lot depending on their environment. In the wild, they face some pretty heavy predation from hawks, owls, snakes, foxes, and even domestic cats. So they typically live about 5 to 10 years. However, in protected environments or captivity, away from those predators and that brutal winter freezing, some individuals have actually been known to live well into their teens. And that brings us to our 4th and final FAQ for this explainer. Where in the world can you step outside and actually see one of these acrobats natively? Honestly, the answer is just about everywhere. From the massive Indian giant squirrels that are literally 3 feet long, all the way down to the tiny 5-inch African pygmy squirrels. Natively, they have conquered almost the entire globe. They thrive in forests, parks, and suburbs literally everywhere. Well, except for the freezing ice of Antarctica and the super isolated ecosystem of Australia. And that brings us to the end of our explainer today. But I want to leave you with one final really remarkable thought. We talked a lot about their incredible spatial memory and that scatter hoarding behavior, right? But they aren't perfect. They do forget some of those hidden caches. So what happens to the hundreds of thousands of buried nuts and seeds that are just left untouched in the soil all winter long? Well, they sprout. Which kind of leaves us with this incredible realization. By simply trying to survive the snow, are these brave little explorers actually nature's greatest accidental tree planters, regenerating millions of trees in our forests every single year? It's pretty wild to think about. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching Animal Notebook. Keep exploring, and I'll see you in the next explainer.